So basically, my feeling to reject God's authority and anything like that is one of the most important things to work on, as important as, say, the faith, emotion, truth, action thing in the first group.
It is.
Okay.
You're dead right, it is.
So it'd have the most beneficial effects and most, it's like a shortcut even.
Yes, in a lot of ways it is. If you address the emotional reasons why you have a tendency to reject God's authority, you will deal with many blockages towards God as a result. And as a result of dealing with blockages towards God, that will open your heart quite rapidly to accepting God's authority. And we have many, many reasons why we want to reject God's authority, but they're all emotional injuries that have the most powerful negative influence over our life, because while we reject God's authority, we can't accept God's love. So obviously it's going to have a large impact on us if we can do that.
Okay. Can I ask a question about that, or do you want to move on?
Sure,
okay.
you can.
In the very start of the first assistance group, you talked about how we project, what our experience with our parents onto God.
Yes, we do.
Is this what you're really talking about here?
Exactly. You can see how a lot of this is linked, right?
Yeah.
What we're actually doing is blaming God for what we don't want to blame our parents for. That's really what we're doing. And the problem with that is we want to still it's very interesting to look at the analysis of that, because here we have a parent, right? Here we have us, let's say we're still the child, and oftentimes in our own head, we're often smaller than our parent even when we're an adult. What we're doing is we don't want to blame our parent for what they've actually done, because our parent may no longer love us, right? Isn't that true? That's why we do it. We still want our parent at some point in the future to love us. Is that not true? And so we blame our parent, and that then means we don't blame our parent when we should, but we don't blame our parent, and that leaves our heart open to keep waiting for love from them, doesn't it? Do you see that? It actually has the effect of opening our heart to them, waiting for them to love us. That's the reason why we don't blame our parents for what they've done, because our heart wants to stay open to them eventually loving us at some point. You follow me? The irony is, here's God, who is capable of loving us and wants to love us, and instead we put this blame on God. Now, when we blame someone, we close our heart to them. So can you see what we're doing? We're closing our heart to the very person who can love us and leaving our heart open to the very person who hurt us at the same time. How can you see? It's like, oh, wow, that's a pretty amazing thought when you think about it. We're blaming God for things that our parents did so that we don't have to blame our parents. And why do we want that? It's because we still want love from our parents, but we don't care about whether we get love from God or not. So we blame God instead. We don't care about whether we receive love from God. So what we do is we blame God because it doesn't matter to us that we're not receiving love from God. The irony is, receiving love from God is the very thing that will transform your life, totally change it, totally influence your rest of your life in a positive manner, and we're blaming the very person who can give us the most benefit, while at the same time staying open to probably the very person who caused the most problems. You can ask.
So you're saying that then that a big part of that is both recognising that my parent didn't love me in whatever situations, but also emotionally deciding finally that I don't need to give up love from getting acceptance from dad or stuff.
Yeah, can you see, if I have to give up receiving love from my earthly father or earthly mother, I'll probably have to go through a fair bit of grief, right?
Yeah.
That I don't want to feel. So you can see the problem with not giving it up is that I blame God for it now. I'm pushing all that onto God, and now I can't receive love from the person who wants to give it. So I'm setting myself up to have no satisfaction of my desire for love from anybody. Actually, that's what I'm doing.
And And do people sometimes blame someone else other than God, like just blame society? Or,
Of course, blame
like that kind of sense as
society
well, yeah.
or
Okay.
someone who, and quite often they'll blame the parent who loves them even.
Okay.
They'll even do that in order to get love from the parent who doesn't.
Yeah.
We do all sorts of strange things, leaving our heart open to the very person who caused the damage, while at the same time closing down our heart towards the very people who could help us grow and change and also feel loved. And it's such a thing, really, when you think about it, isn't it?
Thank you.
Now, a lot of that's happening because we're basically saying God's responsible for all of what our parents did. That's really what we're saying, isn't it? We're saying, oh, God isn't responsible because God does not have authority over how the parents use their soul. God's not responsible for that. God's only responsible for the laws that govern the soul, not how the parents use them. And so we're actually continuing to blame God for something that really doesn't even belong to God, it belongs to something else. And we do it, and the trouble is our heart remains open to the very persons who harmed us, while at the same time our heart remains closed to the very person who can help us. Very sad state, really, isn't it? Can you see the importance of recognising it? There's a lot involved in this discussion. Obviously, again, this is another discussion that we're just sort of barely scratching the surface of, right? But you can see the problems that arise. We can see, firstly, as we can see, and maybe I need to bring it to conclusion because we're over time now, but we can see that we're placing importance on the very things that God will assist us to destroy already because of God's laws allowing that, and we're placing no importance on the very things God has to wait for us to decide what to do before any help can be given. And then on top of that, we blame God for the very things that our parents have done, and we leave our heart open to the parents and we don't leave our heart open to God. And then we wonder why we're not feeling loved. Just because our hearts are closed towards the very person who can supply that love. Because we want to remain open to the other people who didn't. And we're not prepared to emotionally grieve the loss of a parent who loves us, really. We're not prepared to just grieve that and let it go. And then we could accept the real parent and accept how that real parent feels about us. The feelings that come from God are overwhelmingly beautiful when you let yourself feel them, right? But the majority of us do not let ourselves feel them. We don't. Because we want to remain open to getting love to the very people, getting love from the very people who did not love us. In other words, we are basically remaining open to our parents having authority over us. So this is the irony. We're rebelling against God's authority, thinking we're some kind of independent being. But the reality is we're giving away authority to the very people who misused it. I can't answer any more questions, Felix.